The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
Eater Las Vegas editor Jana Karel recently did the unthinkable, all in the name of journalism. She ate at every single buffet on the Strip in 1 week. Now, Vegas buffets have been the butt of a lot of jokes for years. I mean, hey, aren't they just slop trays for basic tourists? But today on CityCast Las Vegas, we talk with Jana about how buffets have managed to survive and actually thrive, even as much of our food scene has evolved into a high-end paradise. So, is the Vegas buffet somehow here to stay? It's Thursday, August 22nd. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Okay, so Jana, you did a special eater package on buffets recently, and you ate at every single buffet on the Strip. I just have one question. Why? Why?
That's such a fair question, such a reasonable question. A lot of this came down to that I know that readers of Eater have a lot of interest in knowing more about buffets. That's something I see whenever I write about buffets.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go to a buffet, and so I haven't gone to them. And I realized that in the name of efficiency, I could just take out a week of my life and hit all of the buffets and try to better understand what is the appeal here and what is kind of the, historic legacy of the buffet in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Now, both you and I share one thing in common, and that is we both grew up in Las Vegas, and buffets were really everywhere, and now not so much. I mean, a lot failed at the pandemic, but some have come back strong. Okay, before we get into it, and I loved the adventure of a buffet a day. I just thought it was so good, and I encourage people to go read it. Now, the first thing I want to ask you about the article itself, though, is you struggled to find a cup of coffee at any of these places. What the F, man? What was that all about?
Yeah, the first buffet I went, I think it was 4 or 5 of the buffets had the same sort of gas station style coffee dispenser. And the first time that one would not yield to my button pushing, I thought, this is very funny. And the second time it happened, it was frustrating.
Sure.
And by the 4th or 5th time, I was torn between thinking like, I am too stupid to push a button for coffee.
All at different places, yeah?
All at different places, yeah.
Wow.
Until eventually, I think at my 5th buffet with one of these dispensers, I, asked a manager to come over and please show me what I was doing wrong. And finally, I think it was just her authority that bullied it into submission.
So what was it, Jana human error, or was it on the buffet?
It was on the buffet.
Okay. So I guess I do have to have a follow-up on that. After you finally got a cup of coffee, Jana, was it any good?
It's fine.
It was fine. Oh, no. That bodes ill for the rest of this conversation, but I'm glad we got the coffee thing out of the way. All right. So let's go the opposite direction of fine. What was your best experience, given you went to so many buffets on the Strip?
Best experience. I ended up having a far more positive experience at many of the buffets than I expected to. I think my favorite one, however, was the buffet at Wynn. It was just kind of a joyous buffet to enter. The room was really beautiful. All of the food was good. I didn't feel completely overwhelmed by just the sheer mass of people. I think I benefited from where I ended up being seated. But yeah, I liked that one.
So you were comparing against your own, I guess, preconceived notions, and it sounds like you were pleasantly surprised. What were the top food offerings at the Wynn that you recall?
So I got there at noon, which meant that my 2-hour window spanned over brunch service and into dinner service.
Oh, was that strategic? So you got like 2 different food types, and is that allowed, or did you like hack the system?
It is allowed. I think it's also kind of a hack. I think if you can pull that off, that's the way to go.
Okay.
I kind of put in the story, one of my favorite things I ate over that week was this bananas Foster cinnamon roll with this really good warm caramel syrup and these fresh banana chunks that were in there. There was a pretty good prime rib at that buffet. The crab legs are really good. I loved the dessert station there. That was a highlight for me.
Okay, so that was at the Wind.
Uh,
What was your worst experience, Jana?
the worst buffet was the one that I very strategically put off until the last buffet I visited. That was the one at Circus Circus.
Notorious.
Yeah, to be fair, I visited the Excalibur buffet earlier that morning,
hmm
so spoiled my appetite a little bit. And then in trying to work up an appetite for the Circus Circus buffet, I wasted like 40 or $50 between the Slots of Fun Casino and the Midway games. So I soured my attitude a little bit before even going into the buffet.
But Excalibur also doesn't have the greatest reputation, but you found it a little more joyful?
Yeah, Excalibur was kind of a nice surprise. I liked the Excalibur brunch buffet. It was one of the cheaper ones. I think I paid $42 for that one. The food was pretty good all around. I didn't get any coffee, but everything else was fine.
Okay, well, let's transition quickly then. We got the best, which is Win. We got the worst, which is Circus Circus. I have a sinking suspicion what the answer to this next one's going to be, but what was the weirdest?
The weirdest one was the Luxor buffet.
Oh, I thought you were going to double down on Circus Circus. What was weird about the Luxor?
I was thrilled with how weird the Luxor buffet was. All of like the old kind of kitschy theming that you think about the Vegas of the 80s or Vegas of the 90s is
Right?
still alive in the basement buffet of the Luxor.
Well, just the basement of the Luxor is like mythically weird, goofy. What was it like for you going down there? And then also, what was weird about the buffet specifically?
Going down there, it starts with kind of taking this escalator down into the bowels of the Luxor,
Yeah.
which immediately gives way to these really kind of silly, novel Egyptian style palm columns. There is a
Mm.
sarcophagus that's standing guard over the salad bar. I have a little statue of Anubis overlooking where I was seated.
Okay. So kitsch complete. And the
Mhm.
food?
Oh, really bad. Yeah, the food wasn't great there, but I had the time of my life just kind of wandering through the buffet and looking at all of the, theme park style props and decorations in there.
Just really quick, what makes the buffet food bad?
Listen, I know that they're employing a lot of heat lamps in here, a lot of cooking at volume. So I give a lot of grace. My experience at the Luxor buffet had a lot of kind of freezer burnt potatoes and rubbery bacon and a really sad waffle. I didn't really go back for a second lap at that one. I kind of accepted what it was.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Jana, do you think that there's like the quintessential Vegas buffet that every person who wants to unlock their true Las Vegas local badge needs to go to?
Oh, if you want to be a local, I think it's hard for me to pin down what the quintessential Vegas buffet is, because at least in my mind, buffets have sort of thinned out to occupy one of two categories. You have the buffets sort of as they originated, which was as the loss leader. These are the buffets that aren't charging a lot of money, that are pretty easy to get a discount into or a comp into. These are the ones you're going to find at the off-strip buffets.
hmm
And then on the other side of that coin, you're going to find these buffets that are charging $100 to come in and are trying to be the most preeminent, the most gourmet, the most luxurious.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to go for something that's more luxury, then the two leaders in that space are both the Bacchanal buffet at Caesar's Palace and the buffet at Wynn.
Right. And I've walked by both of those, probably more frequently the Caesar's Palace one, just because I find myself at Caesar's Palace of all the hotels as much as any, them in the Cosmo. There's always a huge line. In fact, they have a permanent stanchion that winds around like Disneyland. This is the appeal? This is like people want to pay that much money for something that's in a buffet.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah. So how much exactly is the Bacchanal buffet? Because I do see those lines and I'm curious how much people are shelling out per person.
I went for dinner and for myself and my coworker who came with me. It was about $185 for both of us.
Okay, so just under $100 a person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that includes tax and tip too?
That was tax and tip, yeah.
Okay. Jana, so I think like a lot of people, buffets aren't a great value for me anymore. I think they see me coming and they're like, that kid's not going to eat anything. We're going to make so much money. So what is the actual appeal of Vegas buffet if not value? Or are people like actually like getting their weight in crab legs?
I think there are two primary appeals that make people want to go to the buffet. One that I kind of sussed out by just asking other people who are at the buffet is they're fun. People have a lot of fun going to the buffet. I think that as locals in Las Vegas, there's a lot about the city that is so exciting and cool, and we forget is unique to us. Things like high quality, all you can eat sushi and bars that are open 24 hours.
Right.
And similarly, this caliber of buffet that we have is unique unto us, and it's kind of worked itself into the DNA of the Vegas trip. And there is this appeal, this mystique to going to the buffet and getting to just ogle and discriminate at hundreds of dishes of food and make your game plan and not have to stress about how much you're going to spend per dish. You paid at the door. Everything is free.
Right. So you're in it. You might as well try to win it or have as much fun as you can. That's a really interesting thought, because to me, it's always like, okay, I paid X number of dollars. Am I going to eat X amount of food? But I didn't really even think about it in terms of just this different experience walking into something mythical, like you say, part of Vegas's DNA. Just people wanting to check out, make, like you said, make a game plan. It's almost like an escape room. It's like an escape room where you have to kind of eat your way out.
Totally. And then, so I did reach out to an economist at UNLV to better understand this point you're talking about.
Smart.
Are people able to get their money's worth? And one thing he pointed out is that when you are on the casino floor and when you're gambling, you know that the house is going to come up on top. You know that you're going to lose money. And the buffet can offer this really fun challenge where it seems like maybe you can go in and win one over on the casino. Maybe you can eat your weight in crab legs and get your $100 worth of food in there.
Wow. Okay. We do not recommend that you go and lose a lot of money and then try to win it back with seafood at a buffet. But, you know, I guess everyone has their perspective. I want to change gears. Last year, Jana, we talked with food influencer Phil Zhang about the rise of food halls and how they might be killing off the Las Vegas buffet. As I mentioned, combined with the pandemic, we did see a lot of buffets here close. But you talk about these long lines and full tables at the buffets you visited in your story. How are they doing it? How are they staying relevant?
I think that what we saw in the buffets that closed were these buffets that were kind of in the middle of these two genres that we were talking about, of the local loss leader buffet and this really expensive sort of luxury buffet. And I think kind of in the future, we might even see that distance between the two genres growing even more. Even the Palms buffet raised their prices by about $10 or $15 across all of their services.
Wow. Well, good for the Palms, I guess. Are they just taking advantage of what appears to be maybe a thinning of the herd?
I think they might be. I think it's taking advantage of that there just are fewer buffets now. They've also hit on something really popular. I mean, I was at the Palms buffet on, I think, a Wednesday night, and it was packed, every table full, a line down the casino floor.
So We went from 70 buffets not terribly long ago, pre-pandemic, to how many are left, Jana, on the Strip?
On the Strip, there are 8 or 9. I think there are 8, but in Vegas, total casino buffets, there's only 13.
Okay. So I really enjoyed your article very much. I vicariously was rising and falling, and my stomach was too, with your adventure. One of them that stood out to me was your depiction of the Bellagio, which you kind of described as not really changing a whole lot from the 90s, the decor and the presentation. How can they get away with living in the 90s still?
Yeah, when I visited Bellagio the first time as part of my initial buffet week, in the way that it doesn't feel like the Bellagio buffet had been updated either design-wise or menu-wise in
Hmm.
a couple decades, and the lack of signage for me to even find my way to the buffet, I kind of thought like, ooh, this might be the next one on the chopping block. Like we might
Ooh,
not see the Bellagio buffet for much longer. And then shortly thereafter, I got an email saying that they were extending their hours, that they were going to include an expanded dinner service, that they were bringing in more seafood, more crab legs. And while I was there, I talked to the lead chef to find out more about that. And he mentioned that it had been a little less than a year since they initially had suspended that dinner service, but there was enough demand for that now, especially with the summer crowds that are coming in, that they have found that there does exist an audience that wants to frequent the Bellagio buffet, including at dinner time.
I wonder if the people are just demanding buffet, not necessarily updated buffet, Bellagio, like make a nicer visual for me here. But if they're not worried about that, then I guess why put the money in?
Yeah, I think that's part of the benefit of being in the buffet game is that it sort of markets itself. It's more an idea, it's more of a theme park concept than it is a restaurant.
Yeah. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it really isn't going anywhere. So I don't know. You're now the preeminent expert in buffets in Las Vegas until somebody tries to duplicate your effort. Um, Jana, what do you think the future of buffets in Las Vegas is going to look like?
Um, I have a couple ideas of what the future of buffets might look like. I'm sort of editing what those expectations are, especially because for so long, I, like a lot of other people, was thinking that they were going to be phased out by food halls.
Hmm.
We've seen a couple of the casinos swap out their buffets for food halls. A couple of the newer ones omit a buffet entirely in favor of food halls. But then we saw that the Sundry Food Hall, which I thought was a really cool concept, it was the food hall at the Commons. It closed
Right.
in June after operating for only a month. And by contrast, these buffets I was visiting at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning were packed. So, what I expect to see is we might lose a couple more. I'd be shocked if we saw any new buffets surface or older buffets come back. But I think we're going to see more of a division between these loss leader, maybe off strip or lower price casinos, and then these competitors who are, vying for being distinguished as the most luxury, the most gourmet, the most popular buffet. The Bacchanal, the Wynn. I think Palms now with their price increase. I think we're going to see both of those genres kind of leaning more into that.
Yeah, no, that's a really thoughtful way to think about the future. Which now begs the question that I have to ask you. Having eaten at a buffet every night for a week, both high and low, how's your stomach? How was your stomach after all that, Jana?
Uh, so, fortunately, I do feel like I've been training for this. I don't cook. I eat in restaurants most days of my life. So those were my only meals for that week was only eating at the buffet. But I persevered. I did the hard work. I think I got through it.
Well, thanks for doing that on behalf of all of us who just don't have the stomach for it, literally. Jana, thanks so much for joining us here on CityCast Las Vegas.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
And And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend. Rate the show, leave us a review. We love those reviews, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky. That's a really interesting...
Sorry, that's my doorbell.
Do you need to find out who's buzzing you? Are you expecting anyone? Do we need to have 911 on speed right now, Jana?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to peek at that real quick.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry. I think it's a canvas.
Blink if you need. Okay. Just like blink if you need help.